Good afternoon, everyone. And today I want to speak to boredom. Boredom. Yeah, you heard me. Who talks about boredom? I remember as a kid, whenever I'd tell my parents that I was bored, they would say, like, you're bored, then I'll give you something to get unbored. And it usually involves some type of household chore. So I quickly learned not to say that I'm bored, but instead find ways to entertain myself. Go and play outside, go find a friend, go do something on my own, which was fantastic. So, as a child, I was looking for my parents to give me something to entertain me. But at the end of the day, the actual statement, I am bored, led to more work. So, I just learned to figure out when I felt the feelings or pinging of boredness or feeling bored that I need to go do something. I think it's a valuable skill that our children are losing, and they lose the ability to deal with uncomfortable feelings or boredom without that constant stimuli. But I'll get to that in a second. I have some notes here. Let me pull them up as usual. So, when you think about being in this really kind of fast paced digital world, every second we're being beaten with stimuli, be it from our phones, our TVs, the computers, it doesn't matter. And, I think there's some stressors that come with that. And like we're going to miss something, or we're not meeting up to social media's expectation of what a live should be, right? So, for example, I found myself even when I'm doing these lives about maybe I need to be more like have a PowerPoint and make this perfect and, think about every word that I'm saying and make it infotaining. At the end of the day, I just want to share my thoughts with you. And if it helps someone, I'm happy with that. And so I'm taking the pressure off of meeting social media's expectations or my own perceptions of what those might be. So, but I really think that boredom could be maybe a secret sauce to better mental health, heightened creativity, and even increased productivity. And let's give you my few thoughts on what I think boredom can actually do. First of all, boredom is in a place where we don't have anything physically to entertain us. So imagine if you were out somewhere in remote wilderness, had no cell service, had no other human contact, had no way of getting to human contact relatively quickly, and you literally just had to sit there and be with yourself. And just even the thought of that oftentimes will bring some people anxiety. That is a concern. Now, I'm not saying that all boredom is specific to creativity and seeing benefit, because I think boredom can also be related to depression, but I think there's a different type. I'd almost not describe that as boredom, but I would almost feel that as apathy. And I don't consider apathy the same as boredom. Boredom to me is the brain is looking for some form of entertainment, and it's like a little kid who wants the candy and starts throwing a fit. And so when you think about boredom, it gives us an opportunity to be mindful, right? And I think that's why I originally would struggle with the thought of meditation, because that means I have to sit with myself and be mindful and meditate and not entertain myself, even with the thoughts, and I just let the thoughts go by. And it's almost hard work. But if you think about boredom in the sense of just sitting outside, especially if you're in nature, which I think can cultivate this, you can describe boredom even if you're in nature and kind of slow a little bit, like very mildly engage with your environment, but it doesn't require active, like if you were reading a book, or if you were something more technical, or you having to engage in some type of activity, that requires a lot of mental energy. What I'm describing requires no mental energy, right? You're just walking along and looking. That almost can be a sense of boredom, like not listening to something on your headphones or earphones, being entertained with your phone while you're on a walk, or sitting outside, not having someone, have a chat with someone, even though in that of themselves can be good. But I would describe that as almost a version of the boredom that I'm trying to get to. But, it really is a golden opportunity to kind of turn and gaze inward, right? When, the external world really stops entertaining us, we really begin that journey of introspection and diving deep into our feelings, our aspirations, and our dreams. And I think that can lead to like some personal evolution, maybe a better understanding of ourselves. Like, so we're sitting here looking at the tree, and then, what are we reflecting upon while we're looking at the tree? You almost kind of stop looking at the tree and you just start thinking, right? It allows our time to think about maybe there's a problem that we're dealing with one of our children or at work. And then we start thinking about, well, maybe there's some solutions. It gives you time to sit and reflect and potentially come up with a new hobby or a solution to a problem. So anyway, just being really mindful moments. I think also I kind of hinted to it at the end there. I really think it can help with creation, being creative, right? A mind at rest tends to wander. And then the wandering leads to daydreaming. And, those moments born out of boredom can really boost your creative juices, allowing you to think outside the box and come up with really novel ideas. Like, for example, when I'm going for a walk and I don't have anything to listen to, I'm looking at the different nature and I'm seeing leaves and birds. And I'm thinking, wow, that is just magical in the sense of, I wonder how I could draw that, or I wonder how I could paint that. Or I wonder what that bird does for the rest of the day, right? I love watching hummingbirds come and feed off I call it hummer juice, the bird feeders. And I'm wondering, what do they do at night? Do they eat every hour? So, I mean, again, just these things, you're being creative. I'm like, boy, that would be a great children's book, So that creative flow starts to happen when you allow yourself time and space just to be, right? I think Einstein used to do thought experiments, just sit for hours and think through things. I'm like, wow, what a wonderful way to maybe force ourselves to be okay with ourselves. So it's almost like you can be prescriptive with boredom. Okay, today we're going to spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes even just in a place where there's nothing there to entertain us. There's no music playing in the background. There's no TV. There's no electronic devices. There's no one who's going to speak to you. But just allow yourself time to wander, to mind wander, to daydream, and see what happens. You actually might enjoy it. And I think also this speaks to productivity, right? Because if you think about all these things that we're doing all day, we're constantly being engaged, right? We're focused attention, the entertainment, the computer, at work, always doing something. Boom, 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 boom. And it exhausts us. It's cognitively exhausting. If you allow your mind to rest, so to speak, it's a deliberate pause, you can prevent maybe your mind from burning out, right? Because we only have a limited amount of attention. And you may find that if maybe there's a period of the day that you're really mentally exhausted, if you step back and give yourself prescribed boredom, that might allow you to become back even more productive than you would have been otherwise. So I think of it this way. Technology is like a double-edged sword, right? You can almost call it a technology pacifier, right? So if you imagine a child throwing a tantrum and immediately the pacifier is giving, or a piece of candy, right? Something to pacify the child, to calm down the child. What if we think about our minds as small children, and we need to allow our children to grow up? And part of that growing up means that you can be okay with stress, that you're okay with boredom, that you can handle uncomfortable feelings, emotional stressors. Like I feel like we've lost the ability to regulate our own emotions, right? So it's a place where with little ones that they learn to self-soothe themselves back to sleep, right? I mean, don't have to get up and, help them fall asleep. The children who are at, let's say you're out to dinner and it's really disheartening. You'll see parents have given their children screens of iPads, iPhones, watching movies, headsets. They're not engaging with the family in the dinner time. And if we take it away, they will throw a fit. Well, yeah, because guess what? That is like entertainment. You've given them no other choice. We've not taught them or allowed them to develop the skills, right? So what does that mean when they grow up? They become more anxiety ridden, more stressed, more likely to be depressed, unable to handle even smaller, difficult conversations with others. So I think it all goes back to what are we doing, right? What are we doing to ourselves, right? I think you can dull the knife, so to speak. So maybe many of us grew up without these technology pacifiers, but maybe it's dulled our ability to even soothe ourselves. So we're all at risk. But if your brain starts throwing a fit or a tantrum during your boredom prescription, maybe you just need to let yourself relax and turn back into that and say, okay, I hear you, brain, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to learn to sit with ourselves in our discomfort, and then just allow your brain to be. Let it start thinking, look around and just say, hey, I'm going to allow this time to think about things that maybe I didn't want to think about, or maybe think about a new hobby, or think about, planning for the holidays. What are you going to cook? What would be a gift for your grown-up children? For example, I'm sitting here thinking, what would be my kids' gift for Christmas, and how can I use a creative endeavor to do it? Come up with a really fun idea that I haven't ever done before, right? It's a little book that I love origami, for example, and my little origami fish, and I've got all sorts of them. I want to make origami envelopes and give them little gift cards and say, on a day when you're feeling tired, a gift card for, I don't know, Starbucks or something. But yeah, and just know that I spent time in thinking of them and their lives and what their stresses are. That came from just time of sitting or walking. So think about it that way. This really is an opportunity to allow ourselves to turn inward and build skills that so many of us are, like I said, losing. So, I don't know. Boredom is a really interesting thing. Again, like I said, I'm listening to a book called The Comfort Crisis, and they spoke of boredom, and it really got me thinking, with my patients who are dealing with anxiety and depression. Of course, they're at times needs medications and some other things, or maybe they're struggling with some other things. But I almost think that boredom could be a prescription. And I'm going to say a boredom prescription in nature, because nature is amazing. Interesting studies showing that at least 20 minutes 3 times a week, just walking through a park or somewhere in nature can be quite rejuvenating. And even a bigger reset is maybe 3 days a month. Going out and leaving all electronic things in the car or whatever, allowing yourself to be in nature where there is no sign of humans, or fewer of them. So anyway, throwing that out there, just curious as to what you think of this, and what would you do, or what do you do in your bored moments when do you find yourself kind of antsy and anxious and looking for your next dopamine hit off the little phone in our pockets? Or do you allow yourself to do a thought experiment and relax and sit with it and just enjoy the daydream? So anyway, I hope that was helpful. And you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for being here.